Okay, today we are going to learn how to multiply decimals. Last week we worked on adding and subtracting decimals. Today we're going to be multiplying decimals. And we're going to be using a chip model again to help us understand exactly what's happening with these problems. You need to have your personal whiteboard or a piece of paper to write on so you can follow along and do these problems with me. The first problem, so press pause if you need to gather materials and then come back and press play and work through these questions with me. All right. I'm assuming you're back and ready to go. Our first problem is going to be 3 times 2/10. Now, when you see the question 3 times 2/10, I want you to think 3 copies of 2/10. 3 times 2/10 is the same thing as thinking 3 copies of something. So 3 copies of 2/10. First thing you're going to do is you are going to draw or use a place value chart. And for this one, we only need 1 10th place for our place value chart. We want to make 3 copies of 2/10. Well, here's what 2/10 looks like. And if I make 3 copies of that, there's 1 copy, there's 2 copies, there's 3 copies. 3 times 2/10. 2/10, 2/10, 2/10. Then I see how many I have. Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/10. There's my decimal, there's my 0. 3 copies of 2/10 is 6/10. I could write this in a standard algorithm. 3 times 2/10. 3 times 2 is 6/10. 3 times 2/10 is 6/10. 6/10. I could also think of this in unit form. 3 copies of 2/10 equals 6/10. Let's try another one. What if I had 3 copies of 3/10? Set up your place value chart. There's my ones. There's my tenths. Right now, you can press pause. I want you to draw 3 copies of 3/10. What would that look like in your place value chart? Press play when you're ready to check your answer. All right, welcome back. Here's 1 copy of 3/10. Here's another copy of 3/10. And here's a third copy of 3/10. How many tenths do I have now? 6, 7, 8, 9. That would be 9/10. If I wrote it with my standard algorithm, 3 times 3/10. 3 times 3/10 is 9/10. 3 copies of 3/10 is 9/10. 3 times 3/10 equals 9/10. I hope this is making sense to you so far. Now, it can get a little more complicated than this when we have to make some bundles. So let's try another. What if I have 4 times 3/10? 4 times 3/10. Well, again, let's make our place value chart. This time I want 4 copies of 3/10. Well, this is what 3/10 looks like. Let's make 4 copies of that. There's 1 copy, 2 copies, 3 copies, 4 copies. Now, here I have 3 times 4/10 gives me 12/10. I would bundle 10/10 and exchange it for a 1. That would leave me with 1 and 2/10. So 4 times 3/10 gives me 12/10, which we write as 1 and 2/10. 4 times 3/10 gives me 1 and 2/10. 4 times 3/10 equals 12/10. All right, now if we stop and look at some of these problems, I am starting to notice a pattern. What is 3 times 2? 6. So 3 times 2 tenths is 6 tenths. What is 3 times 3? That's right, 9. 3 times 3 tenths is 9 tenths. What is 4 times 3? That's right, 12. 4 tenths times 3 tenths is 12 tenths. The important thing is to recognize and figure out where those decimal points are going to go, because we're talking about a different place value. Instead of talking about 3 times 2 ones equals 6 ones, we're saying 3 times 2 tenths equals 6 tenths. And instead of saying 3 times 3 ones equals 9 ones, we're saying 3 times 3 tenths equals 9 tenths. And instead of saying 4 ones times 3 ones equals 12 ones, we're saying 4 times 3 tenths equals 12 tenths, or 1 2/10. All right, let's practice a couple more, and then I'm going to have you do some practice on your own. What if I didn't have tenths? What if I was doing a problem with hundredths? So on your paper, write down 2 times 300ths. For this one, when you set this up, you're going to need a place value chart that shows ones, tenths, hundredths. So I want you to draw 2 copies of 300ths for me. Press play when you're ready. All right. Here's 1 copy of 300ths. Here's 2 copies of 300ths. 2 times 300ths is the same as 2 copies of 300ths. Well, how many hundredths do I have now? 6 hundredths. I have 0 tenths, 0 ones. 2 times 300ths is 6 hundredths. 2 times 3 hundredths equals 6 hundredths. So if you're thinking, wow, all this work we've been doing about going back and forth between standard and unit form really makes sense right now, all the work we've been doing with our place value chart totally makes sense right now, I would agree with you. What I'd like you guys to do now is open your blue Learn book. I want you to do problem set only number 1, A through F, using the strategy that we just learned. When you are ready to go over them, press play and listen to the next part of this video. So you're only going to do lesson 11 in your blue Learn book, just the top part of your problem, number 1, A through F. It will look like this. It's the same type of problems we just practiced doing. So go ahead and try those. It looks like this, right on the top. 1A, B, C, D, E, and F. And then when you're ready, press play and we'll go over those. All right. I am going to assume that you guys did your work and you are back. You pressed play. So let's look at this. 1A says 3 copies of 2 tenths. Well, when I read 3 copies of 2 tenths, I know that that means 3 times 2 tenths, or 3 times 2 tenths. I can use my place value chart like this, which would give me 2 tenths, 2 tenths, 2 tenths, 3 copies. There's 1 copy of 2 tenths, 2 copies of 2 tenths, 3 copies of 2 tenths. I am left with here, when I copied that three times, I have 6 tenths. 3 times 2 tenths equals 6 tenths, or you could have written 6 tenths to get that correct. 1B says 5 groups, that's 5 times, 2 hundredths. 5 times 2 hundredths. This time your place value chart needs ones, tenths, hundredths. I have 5 groups of 2 hundredths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 2 hundredths is 10 hundredths. And that would be correct. But we can rename 10 hundredths. I could bundle those 10 hundredths and exchange it for 1/10. 10 hundredths is the same as 1/10. 5 times 2 hundredths equals 1/10, or 10 hundredths. I hope this is making sense to you. All right, let's look at 1C. 1C says 3 times, I can write times like this, 6/10. 3 times 6/10. I need my place value chart with ones and tenths. 3 copies of 6/10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 1 copy of 6/10, second copy of 6/10, third copy of 6/10. I know 3 times 6/10 is how many tenths? 18/10. So I could regroup this. There's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can bundle up those 10 and exchange it for 1. That leaves me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8/10, 1, 1. Or I know that 18/10 is also 1 and 8/10. And I could write this using standard form. All right, moving on. You guys also did 1D. 1D is 6 times 4 hundredths. Draw your place value chart. Ones, tenths, hundredths. For this one, we have 4 hundredths. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have it 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 4 hundredths. Well, if I just think of standard form, 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 4 hundredths is 24 hundredths. We can look over here. Here I have 4, 8, 9, 10. Can bundle that and exchange it for 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can bundle those, exchange it for a tenth. I would have 2 tenths, 4 hundredths. I also know 24 hundredths can be written like that. Okay, let's look at 1E. 1E says 5 times as much as 7/10. 5 times 7/10. Well, here I'd have ones, tenths, and I have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Need one more. I don't have room. Put it over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's still part of my tenths column. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 7/10 is 35 tenths. I know I can regroup here. I've got 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a group. I can exchange. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Here's another group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is a third group. This would be 3 and 5 tenths. I know I could rewrite this. 3 times 7/10 equals 3 and 5 tenths. And my last one is 4 thousandths times 3. Well, they wrote it backwards, but you guys know this is the same thing as saying 3 copies of 4 thousandths. So my place value chart is a little bigger. Ones, tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. I have 1, 2, 3 thousand, 4 thousandths. I want to multiply by 3, so I need 3 copies. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I bundle 10 thousandths and exchange it for 100th. So if I was going to write this, I have 0 ones, 0 tenths, 100th, 2 thousandths. 4 thousandths times 3 is 12 thousandths. 4 thousandths times 3 equals 12 thousandths. Just like that. Now, how many of you are thinking there's got to be another way to do this? Because what if these numbers get much bigger? Am I really going to draw a place value chart every single time? Well, you can draw a place value chart for these 3 copies and 2 copies. Even over here, it started getting a little trickier, wasn't it, with 5 copies or 6 copies? So there is another way, and it's a great way. You're going to love it. It's called the area model. So let's take a look at what an area model looks like. So now you guys are going to close up your blue Learn book, take out a piece of paper or your place value chart again, and let's look at a bigger problem. Let's stick with 2 copies though, but this time we're going to say 2 copies of 43 hundredths. Now we could still draw this with our chip model, ones, tenths, hundredths. And if we did that, we would see 2 copies of 43 hundredths. Well, that's 4 tenths, 3 hundredths. That's 1 copy. 2 copies of 43 hundredths. And then we could add these up. 2 times 3 hundredths is 6 hundredths. 2 times 4 tenths is 8 tenths. That would give me 86 hundredths. 2 times 43 hundredths is 86 hundredths. But look at a different way to do this. There is another way. We could make what's called an area model. And when we make an area model, we would draw a picture and we would say there are 2 copies. So I would put the 2 here. And then I would divide this up by place value, just like I did here, but I would put it on top. And so I know the number 43 hundredths is 4 tenths plus 3 hundredths. I would draw a box for each of the place values. And then I would say 2 times 4 tenths is how many tenths? 8 tenths. And 2 times 3 hundredths is how many hundredths? 6 hundredths. Same thing I did here. And then I would write the standard form underneath. 8 tenths plus 6 hundredths. And I solved for that. Now, I would line these up vertically. 8 tenths plus 6 hundredths. I add them together. 0 hundredths plus 6 hundredths is 6 hundredths. 8 tenths plus 0 tenths is 8 tenths. 0 ones plus 0 ones is 0 ones. 86 hundredths is my answer. It's the same answer I got with my chip model, but this was using my area model. And the area model, especially if you know your multiplication tables, which we have started practicing again, that's going to be a really much faster, more efficient way to do this instead of drawing all these dots. They both bring you to the same answer, so you have to figure out which one works for you. Let's try another one. What if I have 2 times 423 thousandths? Well, you guys are getting good. you can do your chip model. You're going to need to go all the way to the thousands place. You can do your chip model, 2 copies of it, so press pause if you need more time, and then you can check back with your answer. Okay, so you pressed play, so we have 4/10, 2/100, 3/1000. That's 1 copy, but I need 2 copies. So I would write 4/10, 2/100, 3/1000. 4 times 3/1000 is 6/1000. 2 times 3/1000 is 6/1000. 2 times 2/100 is 4/100. 2 times 4/10 is 8/10. My answer is 846/1000. Let's try this with an area model. So I have 1, 2, 3 place values. So I'm going to need to set up 1, 2, 3 boxes. 2 copies goes here. 2 times 4/10, 2 times 2/100, and 2 times 3/1000. Now I do my math. 4 times 2 is 8. I need my unit, 8/10. 2 times 2 is 4. 4/100. 2 times 3 is 6. 6,000. Super important to label your unit. Then I write them. This is 8/10 plus 4/100 plus 6,000. I line these up. 8/10, 4/100, 6,000. You can fill in your zeros. 0 plus 0 plus 6,000 is 6,000. 0 plus 400 plus 0 is 400. 8/10 plus 0 plus 0 is 8/10. Same number. Okay, let's try another. And this time, let's just do our area model. Well, actually, you know what? It might be easier to show you the chip model so you can see the difference between 2 items. Let's do it both ways again. 4 copies of 423,000. So we're going to do this 2 ways. First, let's do our place value chart. So I have ones, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Four copies of this. Go ahead and draw it. Press play when you are ready to check. All right, you're back. So you had 4/10, 2/100, 3/1000. You have 4 copies of it. So that's 1 copy, 2 copies, 3 copies, and 4 copies. See that? Now we're going to calculate. 4 times 3/1000 is 12,000. So I know I can bundle 10 of these and exchange it for 100. Leaves me with 2,000s. 4 times 200 is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. We can leave those. 900ths. And I've got 4 times 4 for tenths. That's 16 tenths. So I know I can do some bundling here. There's 4, 8, 9, 10. Bundle 10 of these and exchange it for a 1. I think that's just a mark I made, sorry. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths left, and I have 1, 1. So my answer is 1 and 692 thousandths. You can start to see how many dots this takes. This one is so much more efficient with an area model. I take my first number, 4. That's how many copies. 4 times. I break this up. This is 4 tenths plus 2/100 plus 3/1000. All right, set that up on your paper. See if you can solve to find out what each of these answers will be, and then press play when you're ready to check. All right, so you said 4 times 4 is 16, so 4 times 4/10 is 16/10. 4 times 2 is 8, so 4 times 2/100 is 8/100. 4 times 3 is 12, so 4 times 3/1000 is 12/1000. Now you need to rewrite each of these in standard form. If you need your place value chart, you should use it. 16/10 we know we can write as 1 6/10 plus 8/100 we write it as 0.08 plus 12/1000 we can write as 0.12. I think this might be one of the hardest parts of this, so make sure you use your place value chart if you need to. Next, we add these together. Put it in vertical form and line up your place values. When you line up your place values, your decimal points will fall into place. 1 6/10 is the same as 1 600 thousandths. 8/100 is the same as 80 thousandths. And then we have our 12,000ths. So we're going to add those together. 0 plus 0 plus 2,000ths is 2,000ths. 0 plus 8/100 plus 1/100 is 9/100. 6/10 plus 0 plus 0 is 6/10. 1 plus 0 is 1. We get the same answer using our area model, 1 692 thousandths. All right, last problem we're going to solve together. This one I want you to do using your area model. 6 copies of 1 21/100. 6 times 1 21/100. Set up your area model. On this side you have 6. You're going to need 1 2/10, 1/100. Press pause and solve this problem. Then press play to check your answer. Okay, you're back. So you said 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 1 is 6 ones. 6 times 2/10 is 12/10. 6 times 1/100 is 6/100. Rewrite them underneath in standard form. 6 plus 12/10 is the same as 1 2/10 plus 6/100. Line them up. 6 plus 1 2/10 plus 6/100. Remember, your decimal points will line up. We know there's a decimal point right after the ones place. 6 we can write as 600. 1 2/10 is the same as 1 20/100. Then we can add 0 plus 6/100 is 600. 0 plus 2/10 plus 0 is 2/10. Bring down your decimal. 6 ones plus 1 is 7 ones. 6 times 1 21/100 equals 7 26/100. All right, I want you guys to do some practice. So you are going to go to your blue Learn book, lesson 11 again. You already did question 1, so now I want you to work on question 2, 3, 4. When you finish that, you can watch my video to check your answers. So go to the blue Learn book, lesson 11, questions 2, 3, and 4. You already did question 1. When you finish, you can press play on the 4th and final video for today's math lesson.